If you are over the age of 55 and spending your mornings analyzing the deepening lines around your mouth, the new folds on your neck, or the thinning crepe-like texture on the back of your hands, you are looking at the wrong problem. Those lines are not merely the inevitable markers of passing time, and they are certainly not a cosmetic failure on your part. You are looking at a desperate, flashing warning light from your body. The loss of structural integrity on the outside is a direct, undeniable reflection of a catastrophic loss of health span happening on the inside, specifically within your most vital organ systems. But the damage can be stopped, and the structural foundation of your body can be rebuilt. For decades, the multi-billion-dollar skincare and cosmetic industry has systematically conditioned you to believe that wrinkles are simply a superficial issue, a localized problem to be spackled over with overpriced moisturizers, chemical peels, and invasive, painful procedures. They have made you feel deeply guilty for not buying the right serums, for spending too much time in the sun in your 20s, or for simply not having the genetic lottery of perpetual youth. I need you to release that guilt right now, completely and permanently. The failure is not yours. The failure belongs to a heavily siloed medical system that artificially separated dermatology from cardiology, and a pharmaceutical industry that profits immensely from treating isolated symptoms rather than addressing the terrifying root cause of systemic biological decay. When we look at exhaustive, peer-reviewed longitudinal studies from prestigious institutions like the Mayo Clinic and analyze data compiled from decades of advanced cardiovascular research, a profound, undeniable, and frankly frightening correlation emerges. The microscopic proteins that keep your skin firm, elastic, and resilient are the exact same proteins that keep your blood vessels flexible, your heart valves functioning, and your bones dense. To truly understand the magnitude of what is happening in the mirror, we must journey beneath the epidermis, past the dermis, and down into the microscopic scaffolding of your biology. Imagine your body as a magnificent, historic cathedral. The skin you see on the surface is simply the plaster and paint on the outside of the building. But what gives that building its majestic shape, what prevents it from crumbling under the relentless weight of gravity and time, is the unseen framework of heavy timber and steel beams hidden deep within the walls. In your body, that crucial steel framework is made of two critical proteins, collagen and elastin. Collagen provides the rigid strength, the structural integrity that prevents sagging and tearing. Elastin provides the snap, the miraculous ability for tissue to stretch, accommodate movement, and instantly return to its original shape. For years, you have been told that your skin wrinkles simply because it loses collagen and elastin as you age. This is true, but it is only a dangerously small fraction of the story. You see, the endothelial lining of your cardiovascular system, the thousands of miles of arteries, veins, and microscopic capillaries that must constantly expand and contract to pump life-giving oxygen to every single cell in your body, relies entirely on the exact same collagen and elastin matrix. When the plaster on the outside of the cathedral begins to crack, fissure, and fall away, it is not because the plaster is merely old, it is because the steel beams inside the walls are rusting, weakening, and giving way. A landmark study evaluating arterial stiffness in adults over the age of 60 found a direct, highly measurable parallel between the severity of facial wrinkling and the dangerous loss of elasticity in the ascending aorta, the largest and most important artery in the human body. As the skin on your face sags, the vital blood vessels in your chest stiffen. This stiffening of the cardiovascular system is the primary driver of treatment-resistant high blood pressure, decreased oxygen delivery to the brain, and an exponentially higher risk of severe, life-altering cardiac events. The wrinkle on your cheek is quite literally the echo of a stiffening artery. So we must ask the critical question, what is rusting the steel beams? What is actively and aggressively destroying this vital protein matrix in both your skin and your heart? It is a sinister biological process called glycation, driven by an insidious compound known as advanced glycation end products, appropriately and ironically abbreviated as AGs. For the last 50 years, outdated, highly flawed dietary guidelines have pushed our generation toward diets high in refined carbohydrates, hidden sugars, and heavily processed industrial seed oils, while simultaneously telling us to fear natural, healthy fats. This was a catastrophic mistake for human longevity. When you consume these highly refined sugars and ultra-processed carbohydrates, they do not just sit passively in your digestive tract or turn simply into energy. In the bloodstream of an older adult with slowing metabolism, they act like biological shrapnel. These excess sugar molecules circulate through your body and aggressively attach themselves to proteins and lipids in a chaotic, non-enzymatic reaction. When a sugar molecule attaches to a strong, previously flexible collagen fiber, it creates a rigid crosslink. Imagine taking a beautifully woven, highly flexible fishing net and pouring fast-drying, rigid superglue all over it. The net becomes hard, brittle, and highly prone to snapping under the slightest pressure. This is precisely what advanced glycation end products do to the collagen in your skin and the collagen lining your arteries. On the outside, this cross-linking manifests as deep, inelastic wrinkles, sagging jowls, and skin that feels rough and hardened. The skin can no longer snap back when you smile or frown. On the inside, this exact same cross-linking makes your blood vessels hard and rigid. The heart must suddenly pump significantly harder to force thick blood through these stiff, unyielding tubes, driving up your blood pressure and damaging the delicate internal lining of the vessels, creating microscopic tears where dangerous plaque begins to accumulate. The cosmetic industry tells you to rub synthetic collagen creams on your face to fix the wrinkles, completely ignoring the scientific fact that the collagen molecules in those expensive creams are far too large to ever penetrate the human skin barrier, and more importantly, completely ignoring the internal glycation fire that is currently burning down your cardiovascular system from the inside out. Furthermore, to understand the depth of this systemic crisis, we must look at the terrifying concept of microvascular suffocation. As you age, and as your primary vessels become stiff and damaged by these circulating ages and rampant oxidative stress, the smallest blood vessels in your body, the capillaries, begin to die off and disappear entirely. This process is clinically known as capillary rarefaction. These capillaries are so unbelievably microscopic that red blood cells must literally fold themselves in half and line up single file just to pass through them. Yet they are the ultimate delivery system of human life, responsible for bringing oxygen, vitamins, and essential nutrients directly to the individual cells of your skin, your heart muscle, and your brain tissue. When these tiny vessels die, the tissues they serve are quite literally suffocated. The skin on your hands and forearms becomes paper-thin, highly translucent, and easily bruised because it is starving for blood flow and the structural support it provides. But remember our fundamental rule: the skin is just the mirror. If the capillaries feeding your skin are dying off, leaving you with a dull, crepey complexion, you must realize that the capillaries feeding the deep, critical tissues of your vital organs are experiencing the exact same devastating drought. This catastrophic loss of blood flow is precisely where the concept of cellular senescence enters the picture, accelerating your aging process tenfold. When cells are starved of oxygen and constantly damaged by internal toxins and glycation, they do not always simply die and politely clear away as they did when you were in your 20s. Instead, many of them enter a mutated state of senescence. They become what longevity scientists now refer to as zombie cells. They completely cease to perform their designated physiological functions, but they stubbornly refuse to undergo programmed cell death. Instead, they sit stagnant in your tissues, actively secreting a highly toxic, inflammatory soup of chemicals known as the senescence-associated secretory phenotype. This localized chronic inflammation aggressively accelerates the breakdown of surrounding, previously healthy tissue, creating a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle of rapid aging. In your skin, these zombie cells literally digest and destroy neighboring collagen factories called fibroblasts, ensuring no new collagen can be made. In your blood vessels, these exact same zombie cells promote the rapid calcification and hardening of arterial plaque, pushing you closer to a cardiovascular event with every passing day. History provides us with a fascinating, profound pattern interrupt to help us understand just how deeply connected our external appearance is to our internal biological fortitude. Long before the advent of modern magnetic resonance imaging, advanced blood lipid panels, and microscopic tissue biopsies, ancient medical traditions, such as traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, relied heavily and successfully on advanced visual diagnostics. They understood with absolute clarity that the exterior landscape of the body was a highly accurate topographical map of the interior condition. A master practitioner thousands of years ago would closely examine the specific depth and placement of the lines on a patient's forehead, the texture and puffiness of the skin around the eyes, and the underlying coloration of the cheeks to accurately diagnose failing conditions of the heart, the liver, and the kidneys. Modern Western medicine, in its relentless quest to specialize, subspecialize, and divide the human body into completely isolated compartments, tragically lost this holistic wisdom for over a century. Only now, through the highly advanced lens of molecular biology and genetic sequencing, are we finally proving what the ancients knew simply through careful, sustained observation. For instance, let us consider another vital, unseen structure currently at risk, your skeletal system. It may shock you to learn that your bones are not simply dry, brittle sticks of calcium resembling what you see in a museum. Living human bone is a highly dynamic, heavily vascularized tissue comprised of an incredibly dense matrix of type 1 collagen. This is the exact same type 1 collagen that gives youthful skin its remarkable thickness, plumpness, and resistance to tearing. The calcium and phosphorus in your diet merely mineralize and harden this underlying collagen scaffolding. A pivotal, groundbreaking study following thousands of postmenopausal women revealed a terrifying truth. The severest degree of skin wrinkling was one of the most accurate, undeniable outward predictors of low bone mineral density and severe osteoporosis. The women with the deepest, most pronounced wrinkles on their face and neck were significantly more likely to suffer from brittle, hollowed-out bones and life-threatening hip fractures. The sudden loss of estrogen during menopause drastically accelerates the degradation of this type 1 collagen universally throughout the body. Therefore, when you look down and see the skin thinning and wrinkling on your forearms, you are not just looking at old skin. You are directly, visibly observing the precise thinning and hollowing out of the bone matrix beneath it. The structural collapse is happening simultaneously, driven by the exact same biological mechanisms. We must also briefly address the pervasive and highly profitable myth of hydration. For decades, beauty magazines and well-meaning doctors have told you that as you age, your skin becomes wrinkled simply because it is dry, and the solution is to forcibly drink gallons of water every day. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of geriatric physiology. You are not simply dehydrated. Your skin and your cellular membranes are actually leaking. The outermost layer of your skin, the stratum corneum, relies on a highly complex mortar of lipids, specifically ceramides and cholesterol, to seal the moisture inside the tissue. As systemic inflammation rises and hormonal profiles shift after the age of 55, your body drastically reduces the production of these critical barrier lipids. You can drink all the purified water in the world, but without that lipid barrier, the moisture simply evaporates straight through the compromised skin, a process called transepidermal water loss. And once again, this mirrors the internal environment. The lipid membranes that protect every single cell in your heart, your brain, and your vital organs begin to weaken and leak, rendering them highly vulnerable to oxidative damage and rapid cell death. But here is the profound, scientifically validated truth that must instantly replace your fear with absolute, unwavering empowerment, because the terrifying destruction of your skin, your arteries, and your bones shares the exact same underlying biological pathway. The reversal and healing of this decay also shares the exact same protocol. You do not need 20 different localized treatments, 5 different doctors, and a cabinet full of synthetic creams. You need a single, unified, systemic intervention. To rebuild this vital scaffolding, we must first aggressively extinguish the chemical fires of glycation and inflammation, and then flood the body with the precise raw materials necessary for your cellular machinery to synthesize new, flexible collagen from within. The absolute first step is establishing metabolic flexibility by drastically and permanently reducing the intake of refined sugars, liquid carbohydrates, and highly processed industrial seed oils, you immediately starve the production of advanced glycation end products. You immediately stop pouring that rigid superglue over your delicate biological fishing net. But stopping the damage is only half the battle. We must also actively clear out the accumulated wreckage of the past decades. This is miraculously achieved through the activation of autophagy, a profoundly powerful cellular cleanup mechanism built into your DNA. Autophagy translates literally to self-eating. When the human body is subjected to specific, highly controlled positive stressors, it sends out microscopic cellular garbage trucks to hunt down those inflammatory, tissue-destroying zombie cells, break them apart, and recycle their amino acids to build brand new healthy tissue. One of the most gentle, safe, and highly effective ways to trigger profound autophagy, especially for older adults with varying health conditions, is through carefully managed, time-restricted eating. By simply extending your natural overnight fast, perhaps finishing your final meal of the day by 6 or 7 in the evening and intentionally delaying breakfast until 9 or 10 the following morning, you give your overworked digestive system a profound, much-needed rest. During this specific fasting window, your circulating insulin levels drop to baseline, and the body shifts its massive energy resources away from digesting food and channels it directly into deep cellular repair, actively clearing out senescent zombie cells from your dermal layers and your vascular lining alike. Next, we must provide the specific, highly bioavailable molecular building blocks required to rebuild the cathedral's internal steel framework. The biological production of human collagen requires 3 primary non-negotiable amino acids: glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. Tragically, these specific amino acids are largely absent in modern, muscle meat-heavy Western diets. They are heavily concentrated in the connective tissues, the tough skin, and the marrow-rich bones of animals, the exact parts of the animal that modern convenience-driven dietary habits have completely discarded. Integrating a high-quality, slow-simmered, grass-fed bone broth into your daily routine provides a massive, highly bioavailable influx of these exact amino acids, pre-dissolved and ready to be instantly absorbed by your thinning intestinal lining without causing digestive distress. However, even if you perfectly flood your system with these raw amino acids, your body cannot weave them into strong, highly cross-linked collagen fibers without a crucial absolute catalyst: vitamin C. I am most certainly not speaking of commercial sugary orange juice, which will simply spike your blood glucose, trigger massive insulin release, and create a fresh wave of destructive advanced glycation end products. I am speaking of potent, low-sugar, whole food sources of vitamin C, such as organic bell peppers, broccoli, and dark leafy greens, or alternatively, a high-quality liposomal vitamin C supplement designed to completely bypass the harsh, destructive acid of the stomach and absorb directly into the bloodstream. Without sufficient constant levels of vitamin C, any collagen your body attempts to produce is weak, disorganized, and easily degraded, leading to a condition historically known as scurvy, which, when you truly analyze it, is ultimately a catastrophic, fatal failure of the collagen matrix, resulting in spontaneously hemorrhaging blood vessels and tearing skin. Furthermore, to deeply lubricate this newly formed biological matrix and protect your vulnerable cellular membranes from further oxidative stress, we must ensure an absolute abundance of omega-3 fatty acids. The specific fatty acids EPA and DHA naturally found in wild-caught, cold-water fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines act as powerful systemic fire extinguishers for inflammation. They integrate directly into the lipid bilayer of your cells, physically restoring the crucial moisture barrier of your skin from the inside out, while simultaneously reducing the dangerous stickiness of your blood platelets, thereby dramatically lowering your risk of blood clots and further protecting your healing cardiovascular system. For those who find fish difficult to digest, culturally unappealing, or simply unpalatable, a high-quality cold-pressed marine algae oil provides the exact same critical omega-3s in a highly absorbable plant-based format. Finally, we must address the critical physical issue of microvascular suffocation through targeted specific movement. The delivery of these powerful raw materials, the amino acids, the vitamin C, and the omega-3s, to the deep starving tissues of your skin and your vital organs is entirely and completely dependent on robust, powerful blood flow. However, I completely understand and fiercely validate that for many individuals over the age of 55, the idea of intense, high-impact cardiovascular exercise like running or jumping is not only deeply unappealing, but actively dangerous due to existing joint pain, degraded cartilage, or severe osteoarthritis. The phenomenal news is that you absolutely do not need to subject your fragile knees and hips to the violent pounding of a treadmill to stimulate deep, restorative capillary growth. The true biological key is consistent, low-level muscular contraction, which acts as a powerful secondary heart, actively pumping stagnant blood back up from your extremities. Activities like warm water aerobics provide immense full-body resistance to beautifully stimulate muscle tone and bone density while completely removing the harsh gravitational load from aching, vulnerable joints. Alternatively, the ancient, deeply respected practice of Tai Chi, with its incredibly slow, deliberate, weight-shifting movements, has been overwhelmingly shown in rigorous clinical trials to significantly improve endothelial function, drastically reduce resting blood pressure, and heavily enhance microcirculation to the skin and organs. Even simple, daily, purposeful walking, particularly immediately after meals, engages the largest muscle groups in your body located in your legs. These massive muscles act like giant sponges, rapidly drawing excess, dangerous glucose directly out of your bloodstream before it ever has the chance to attach to your collagen proteins and form those destructive advanced glycation end products. If walking is currently too difficult or painful, seated resistance band exercises performed from the comfort of a sturdy chair can achieve a truly remarkable, measurable increase in systemic blood flow. The goal here is absolutely not exhaustion, heavy sweating, or joint pain. The goal is the continuous, gentle, persistent coaxing of warm, oxygen-rich, nutrient-dense blood into the farthest, coldest, most starved reaches of your physical body. Let us delve even deeper into the astonishing, miraculous mechanism of how your body actually orchestrates this systemic repair. Deep within your dermal layers and embedded directly within the muscular walls of your arteries reside highly specialized, fascinating cells called fibroblasts. Think of your fibroblasts as the master weavers, the tireless architects of your internal scaffolding. When you are young, these master weavers work energetically around the clock, effortlessly spinning out fresh, incredibly tight bundles of collagen and elastin to repair daily damage. But as decades of heavy oxidative stress, poor, sluggish blood flow, and systemic low-grade inflammation take their terrible toll, these fibroblasts become exhausted, sluggish, and eventually dormant. They enter a state of deep biological hibernation, profoundly reducing the production of all structural proteins. The skin begins to cave in, forming the deep wrinkles you see, and the blood vessels lose their vital, life-saving elasticity. The protocol we have just comprehensively discussed, the aggressive reduction of refined sugar, the consistent introduction of glycine-rich bone broth, the heavy saturation of bioavailable vitamin C, and the mechanical stimulation of blood flow through safe, low-impact movement acts as a massive, multi-pronged alarm clock for these sleeping, dormant cells. The gentle mechanical stretching of your tissues during movements like Tai Chi or light resistance training actually sends a physical electrical signal directly into the nucleus of the fibroblasts, a profound biological process known as mechanotransduction, instructing them to immediately wake up and begin weaving again. Simultaneously, the powerful nutrients you are now consuming arrive via the newly reopened thriving capillary networks, providing the exact high-quality raw silk needed for their cellular looms. It is a brilliant, beautifully synchronized biological symphony that you now have the ultimate power to conduct. You must understand right now that you are not at the mercy of your chronological age. The rapid deterioration of your biological structures is absolutely not a foregone conclusion. By recognizing that the wrinkles staring back at you in the mirror are not an aesthetic curse, but rather a profoundly helpful, highly visible map of your internal cardiovascular and skeletal needs, you have gained the ultimate unfair advantage over the aging process. You have successfully bypassed the superficial, expensive distractions of the cosmetic industry and targeted the true beating engine of human longevity. You are no longer merely trying to look younger to appease society. You are actively, aggressively engineering a robust biological environment where your heart, your bones, and your skin can regenerate, heal, and thrive in perfect unison. Every single time you choose a nutrient-dense, whole food meal over a highly processed carbohydrate, every single time you engage in gentle, restorative, purposeful movement, you are quite literally rebuilding the magnificent cathedral of your body from the foundation up. You are restoring the strength of your internal steel, and as a natural, beautiful, and completely unavoidable byproduct, the plaster on the outside will naturally begin to reflect that profound internal resilience, glowing with the unmistakable vitality of a truly healthy vascular system. As you systematically repair this delicate collagen matrix, restoring the youthful flexibility to your hardened arteries and the vital, life-giving blood flow to your microscopic capillaries, you are performing a miraculous, life-saving rescue mission for your body's tissues. But repairing the physical tubes that carry the blood is only the first half of the ultimate longevity equation. The second, arguably more terrifying half, is what those newly restored vessels are actually carrying up into your skull. If your beautifully flexible arteries are now pumping high volumes of blood into a brain that is quietly, invisibly suffocating under decades of sticky, toxic amyloid plaque buildup, you are still at immense, terrifying risk of losing your independence, your precious memories, and your absolute cognitive clarity. To discover the 3 simple, everyday foods that act like a chemical power washer for your aging brain cells, actively breaking down and flushing out the exact plaques responsible for severe cognitive decline, you need to click the video on your screen right now. I will see you there.